I would argue, Dr. Weyer can comment, but I would argue that the modern age of evidence-based medicine began with those 6 words. Because that gave us the last 50 years. We say, let's rely evidence-based on the literature, right? I think when the history, certainly of the last 50 years is written, and when people go back and look at it, the extent to which the literature has been contaminated by people writing articles with certain biases based on certain financial interests, I think it probably will be one of the things that we're not going to be proudest of. But in the end, the real issue is we don't have the methodologies. We're not smart enough. Even after the last 50 years, I can't stand here today, and we can't determine whether a drug actually is safe and effective for a common cold. With all those complexities, you still want more information. The last 50 years has taken us to this point. What your job is how are the tools that you have, and is it going to be discussed over the next day and a half, how do you take us to the next stage? But please, please, don't forget the limitations of where we start, because we're only as good as the evidence that we have.
We all live in the verge of an exciting time. Healthcare reform is here. It survived the Supreme Court. And payment reforms, where we're slowly, awkwardly, clumsily, but step by step going to hopefully transition to a place where we're paying more for quality and results than we are for how much stuff you do. Notice how those words just rolled right off my tongue. And that's why I said the transition path won't be that smooth. And we all get to be part of this. And many of you in the room are going to be a very key part of this. We know that we're producing more and more evidence all the time. We lead the world in biomedical research. That's a great place to be, because it means for many decisions, there's often 2 or more good options. What there's not good information about telling patients and clinicians or giving them any clue about what's the best place to start. And the incorporation of evidence into clinical practice is sometimes pretty glacial. In this brave new world with more and more science being produced all the time, particularly as we're beginning to see the harvest of investments that came out of the Recovery Act in the scientific research world, I think that there's a very critical sweet spot between people who are focused on modern medicine and genomics and nanotechnology and all those fancy new fields that I pretend that I know what they're talking about, people who are very focused on population health, and people who are focused on patient-centered care. And so looking for evidence is kind of a hunting exercise. And all of us get to be part of a transition where we shift from hunting to farming, to growing it as a byproduct of providing care every day. And I find that incredibly exciting. I think we're going to know that we're really on track when all of this activity adds value to a clinician's day. Right now, on a good day, it's invisible, right? It's a bunch of bureaucratic hoops that basically don't get in my way because I figured out how to have somebody else take care of it. But it's not adding to what I'm doing. It doesn't give me a sense, like with the checklist, that we're trying to take on an important problem and I can see the progress. And ultimately, our work is going to change what we think is possible. No, it's just kind of background noise and not very much added value.
Meaningful use is going to be defined and determined by you all. You can make it meaningful or not. We can put the tools, we can put the rules, but ultimately, if it ends up being meaningful, it will have been because of you. So that's why I'm here today. And I think that while it is true that we are going to need to find a way to deliver care that is higher quality at lower cost, it's a tall order. That's what we're being asked to do. That's what healthcare has to do. We have to improve the quality and safety of care. And yes, we have to reduce the cost of care. We have to. And yet, I'm optimistic because we have tools we never had before, because the changes that have to come to change an ecosystem, changes in how care is paid for, how care is delivered, and how patients care for themselves. Those three essential parts of the system are all changing.